So controllers can be quite the contentious conversation that can be had, and I'm personally a huge fan of the first-party offerings from Microsoft and Sony and rarely venture past them for my own personal needs. But last generation I got quite well acquainted with an overly expensive Wolverine Ultimate Edition and, well, I fell in love with it. I even went as far as picking up the Tournament Edition thinking that it was the same thing but missing a few of the customizable features, and quite frankly I was dead wrong. It was not that great to me and it had a middling D-pad and horribly mushy face buttons, but hey, you save $40, right? Well, with the new console cycle it means new controllers and new peripherals, and Razer now has the Wolverine V2 that aims to bring the price down and combine the best features of both. But does it? Well, let's start with the features that were stripped out. Gone are any kind of paddles on the back of the controller, and the removable cable was nixed along with RGB, but honestly that's about all that was removed. The thumbsticks maintain a similar resistance and the thumb pads feel a more solid rubber, which should lend them to lasting a bit longer without as much wear. The face buttons aren't quite as good as the Ultimate, but they are miles better than the Tournament Edition and feeling familiar to the stock Xbox Series controller, but with an added tactile click that is quite satisfying. The direction pad nails it and has a very similar tactile feedback and sound to the stock Series controller, but while maintaining a clear separation of directions. The left and right bumper buttons are much welcome improvements over the older Wolverine controllers with a more solid and resounding click, and the adjustable triggers are still in place with all their steps of resistance, making the switch from hair trigger to throttle for cars super easy. On top of that, you'll still find the customizable M1 and M2 buttons that are remappable to keep your thumbs on the sticks as much as possible, but the missing paddles are surely noticed. The V2 nails on all of these things but certainly stumbles in one area, and that's the ergonomics of it all. I love the original Wolverine as it retained the familiar shape and contour of the Xbox One controller but enhanced it. The V2 feels very, very different from the Series controller, and it's not necessarily a bad thing if you have much larger hands, but if you love the way the Series controller feels in hand, then this one will have you feeling like you picked up the old Duke again. The distance between the main thumbsticks and the face buttons is noticeably wider, and your hands will be sitting at less of an angle and more like they would on the Duke or even someone like a Dreamcast controller. And this keeps me from being able to use this for really long sessions. And I almost forgot about the menu and view buttons. Razer guys, what were you guys thinking? The menu button isn't that egregious as you can reach off the face buttons and tap it, but the view button, you have to be Stretch Armstrong to reach over the thumbstick in order to hit that one. Probably the biggest oversight here in the design from a user standpoint. Now the corded nature of the controller doesn't bother me personally, but for it to not be removable or replaceable on a $99 controller feels like a cut too many when there are competitors out there coming in at around $20 less and offering this and more. The Wolverine V2 feels like an absolutely well-constructed controller and well thought out for the most part, but right at the $100 mark, I have to urge everyone to definitely try and get this one in your hands and feel it for yourself before making such a hefty commitment. Love to hear your thoughts on controllers like this. Have you used the V2? Did you use the original Wolverine? If you're using an aftermarket controller, which one are you using and what would you recommend for someone who is looking for something other than the stock controllers?